wherever you might be. It's Nosa here at Imposter Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today, Dr. Bickett and Claudia. Guys, anyone who would like to pause? I think there's a feedback, or is it me? Over to you, Dr. Bickett. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Okay. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening, what depending on wherever you are. Let me ask you: have you ever heard people says, "Oh, you got to heal your inner child," and you're like, "What?" Something like that. Well, there is a part of us when we talk about healing our inner child. A lot of time it's an experience that you have in the past, because sometimes some people make sense about that. Some people's like, what are you talking about? But it's all of us, you making it, whether you are 18 or whether you are 88. We've been through experience in life, and sometimes we have things in life that has happened that might still, on an intellectual basis, we might say, you know what, we can logically say it's all in the past and things, but sometimes there is a piece of us that, as a piece of us, that might still kind of like caught up by it. But even more, why do you want to do that? Why do you bother doing that? And because, as I say to many of my clients, to heal is to be free. To heal is to be able to succeed with more ease and more fun. So if being able to be free, feeling free, feeling no longer followed by the past, feeling that you'll be able to succeed with even more ease and fun is something that you might just want to be able to do in your life. Listen up and we'll share some tips with you on how to do that, with me being a grief transformation specialist, which is helping you healing all trauma and traumatized inner child, as well as the panel here.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Claudia. Please introduce yourself to our audience. Can't hear you. Can't hear you either.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know what you've done.
I don't know as well. Okay, well, hello everyone. Welcome. I'm Claudia. Claudia Pruscher. I'm an intuitive energy healer slash theta healer and a mindset coach as well. And yes, I'm looking forward for us to come together today and to discuss about the inner child as well, like our experience as well with it and how we actually deal with it in our day-to-day life and as well with our clients too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Claudia. So our topic today, Dr. Biggett and Claudia, have just mentioned that is healing and release your inner child and letting go of trauma. And are you someone who's ignoring to acknowledge your childhood, your inner child, your inner child? Why am I talking about childhood? I think it's something that is in my head. So, and you're refusing to acknowledge your inner child, and even if your inner child is trying to communicate with you and letting you know that there are some things that you need to deal with, or there are some things that you need to let go, or there are some things, good things. It doesn't mean that healing is all about bad things. There must be some good things that you have experienced in your childhood, in your inner child, and that inner child is trying to make you aware, raise the awareness of this is who you are, and you're ignoring it. So we're gonna be talking about it today. And if you have had good experiences or bad experiences, how you deal with those things, please feel free to have a conversation with us. We would love to hear that. And Claudia, you chose this topic. I love this topic, by the way. You chose it. Can you let us, the audience, know why did you choose this topic, please?
Well, first of all, when you ask me, I always connect, like I ask what topic is like, which topic is like good for the audience as well right now, and what do they need to hear? And this came up. And actually, as well, can we start within the round to explain what we think or our experience is, as well as what we think, what we inner child is? I'm just curious as well to hear your opinions about it. I mean, to me, the inner child is a part of our subconscious mind, and it's an important concept in us that helps us to understand the past events and as well our current programming, because all our past experiences in life have been stored in our mind, and if we experience some trauma, especially as well in the childhood, we store this information or the trauma or the experience as the child that we were back then at that time in our subconscious mind. This is a bit like what I say the inner child is. What would you say, Dr. Birgit?
Well, that is wonderful. The game of the muting and unmuting, right? And so that is wonderful. Yeah, I would agree with you, Claudia, that it's something in the vicinity. In being a grief transformation coach, people come to me for one of two things, literally. One is one of three things, but at the end of the day, it's one of two things. It's either a grief that they are experiencing now. For instance, somebody whose loved one just passed away, whether your loved one is a pet or a person, or something that happened in the past, and that past could be something happened when when the person was 12 or 4 or 17, and that is that part there that is still just they, and many of them usually been through therapy after therapy in this particular scenario, and they're still just a part of that. They're just still scared, they just still hurt, and that they just still just need to be help, so to say. And so I would say I would agree that there is, and strangely enough, practically everybody who come to me for help with current condition, unless the person has done a ton, and I mean a ton of grief work, there is always there is a part of us that is the part of this client from the past. They usually start working. They're like, holy moly, the system I use is such a way such that even if you come to me for something now, and yes, definitely we will help you, you actually also will actually become more aware of what has happened in the past, and you have the options to address that. I teach an evergreen system, so you can even do it on your own. You don't have to be coaching with me forever. You just do it 3 months and then you're done. And but there is so much, there is a part of us, and I think because that sometimes as adult we use our logic and say, oh well, this is that and this is that and this is that. Well, there is a part of us that there is a child inside of all of us. I always say there is a child inside of all of us, but there's a little boy and there is a little girl. And yes, sometimes, and like Noobs say, I would agree with both. There is some that is that's traumatized. There is that child that say, hey, what happens this and that, and then there is the other part of that child that has wonderful memory, that has a wonderful time, and that child want also to be acknowledged and to be celebrated. And so it's kind of when we are healing, I'd say when you're healing of anything, actually, really, including the past and the inner child, it's kind of a little bit of both, actually. The inner child that want to be celebrated and acknowledged, and then the one that need to be that asking to be healed and to be helped. Hi, Agadir. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us today, this morning. And feel free to participate, share your thought about inner child about past trauma in any manner.
Totally agree with both of you girls, and I think Dr. Biggett as well and Claudia. Basically, inner child, I think there's always a child within us, and sometimes you have to address what is going on and what went on. It doesn't matter whether you had a wonderful time, that inner child will still have something that they didn't like or something that they really loved. So you have to address whatever is going on. And I agree with Dr. Bickett by saying that child might need to be healed, or that child might need to be acknowledged basically and appreciated, and which we don't do. We just when we get to our adult age, we start ignoring our inner child. Basically, it's all about ignoring and ignoring until basically something happens. Then you are like, if you find a professional like a Dr. Bickett, a grieving coach, or somebody like a therapist that is really good, who will take you back to your childhood. Like for me, basically, I like this. I had to carry off the code of like mother, like daughter, and carry off and let it go, because you find that as a child, whatever happened with your mother, or how your mother treated you, or the love that your mother gave you, you start expecting everyone else to give you, even your lover or a workplace, you start wanting people to behave in the same way. So I cut that cord. So you can cut the cord of like mother, like daughter, or like father like daughter, like mother like son, and like father like son. So you have to cut it off, so you begin your own journey when you are doing healing. So you begin your own journey as individual. So that's what I did. It was easy? No, it's not easy, because that child is always there. For me, that child was always there. So I had to acknowledge my inner child, and I had to do the healing, because when I was growing up, my parents divorced when I was 8 months. So I don't remember the divorce. I don't even know what happened, but I had questions that I wished my parents had divorced, because it wouldn't have been good for me if they stayed together. But there were questions that inner child had that were never addressed. So I had to face those questions by asking my father what that inner child wanted to know. I had to face the questions my mother, asking my mother, and my mother is telling me, your father is like that man. He married me when I was young and he was older than me, and my mom started giving it all to me. What was my dad like? So it's that inner child that she wanted to hear. So she wasn't giving it to me in an upset way because I wanted to know, but she was giving it all to me, letting me know this is what happened. So I came to an understanding, because that inner child had questions. So when you have questions, in order for you to be healed, you have to acknowledge the person that is asking questions, like how do make sure you understand how that child feels, how can you support that inner child, and what do you need, what does that inner child need from you moving forward, and then do the process as you go along. So those are the things that I had to do. I had to ask my parents, which some children they don't do. They basically get scared and they're like, I don't want to. For me, my relationship with my parents, I have to know what I need to know, and they have to know what they need to know about me. So that's the relationship we have. Over to you, Dr. Bickett or Claudia. So, like, if I was Dr. Biggett or Claudia, I don't know who's gonna take this answer. If I was in like an audience, I'm watching, I'm being told to address inner child, how do I begin?
Okay.
Now I understand the process. I understand what is an inner child, like we explained, and how do I begin in this process?
Sure. Let's give an example, for example, how to identify it, for example, let me think. Your partner suddenly becomes busy at work and doesn't have time for the big night out you've planned together. And on some level, you understand that he prefers to spend time with you, but you still feel rejected and frustrated about it, So your disappointment manifests a bit in a childlike way, with you stomping off your way and slamming the doors, So I'm sure we can somehow a bit relate to this, But like considering this through the eyes of your inner child can actually offer you some valuable insight in this scenario. For example, you realize that your partner suddenly has to work, he had to change the plans, and it's because as well this, and you get frustrated about it, the inner child aspect in you, because on some level it reminds you of your parents when they cancel the plans or the play dates or the birthday party because of their busy schedules, So if you just like see the situations today happening, and then if you can just like recall to something in the past by tuning into your inner child, because listening to the feelings of this inner child and letting yourself experience as well the feelings and emotions instead of trying to push them away can help you actually to identify and validate the distress that you've experienced in the past. And this is already a very good first step towards working with it. And you, Dr. Birgit, do you have an example in regards to how to identify it in you?
Yeah, that definitely is one wonderful way to identify that there is a part of you that can be that can be healed, or that can be allowed to heal and less release the trauma. The other way for me, being a grief coach, one thing that people do is, and that's a beautiful example also of why you want to heal your inner child. And that's because a lot of time people say, oh, well, that was just then. But it's so strongly influenced your life now. Like, that's beautiful, Claudia. Like you said, something that your parents done in the past. Now, not everything that have happened in the past turn into a trauma. There are certain things, though. And sometimes it's something so trivial, something that you might say, oh, well, that was just that kind of like illogical incidents that your adult mind said, that's just silly. But if it is impacting you enough, that I when I work with my client, I usually say, if it's impacting you enough that it come to you and cause an unsettling feelings to you, then you want to address it. And there is a very simple system that I teach to address it that doesn't take weeks or months or years or expensive amount of anything. And but the that is very true. The other part that I would say, beside what the example that you share, is even something as simple as triggers. Anybody have triggers? Something just really triggers you, and then it could be a lot of different strange things. Not all triggers come from past trauma, of course, but a lot of time triggers are one example of there is a part of you that is there, and unrecognized grief is like one of those that something happened and you bury it, and something happened you bury it. A client just come the other day and she was like, I got to the point right now, everything happened, I just exploded or break down. Why? Because imagine you have like a kettle here, a kettle that's already boiling and bubbling and then inside, and you keep, and that's grief inside of you, just boiling and bubbling. And this is unresolved, unrecognized grief. Well, imagine you adding hot water into that kettle, more grief. Guess what? Even just a little bit, it's going to be spewing over, right? And spewing over, if you haven't seen that. So that is how having unrecognized, unresolved grief, so triggers. And this is whatever that's coming is like triggers. Something happened outside, and you're like, yeah, just done. So easily, so having triggers that's going on long time, some people, some call it overreaction. Something happened, you tend to be very overreacted to a particular thing in life. That could be another sign that you have unresolved grief. Another thing that could clue you that you might have inner child that can be healed or unresolved grief, in the technical term that I have, is actually that your result is not where you want to be. That your result, you like, I keep doing this, and you keep kind of stuck or keep hitting the glass ceiling, where you keep moving forward and then you backtracking, you keep moving forward and then you backtracking, and you take two step forward, three step back. And so that is another way that you typically might not have a uh, might not be fully complete in your healing. That there's something in the background that's still holding you back. What about you? What about you both? Have you noticed that sometimes you might have a glass ceilings that holding you?
Oh yes, of course. I think the glass ceiling is always gonna be there because there's so many layers that you have to go through when you rediscover yourself. That like Claudia was saying, when it comes to relationship, if you had experience in your childhood, and then in your childhood, when you experience rejection or you experience abandonment, let's say you enter a relationship, all of a sudden your spouse, the hours start changing. You, instead of embracing that, okay, we're paying the bills and you're having, it's temporal, it's not gonna be just forever. You start basically feeling rejected, and then you start feeling your spouse, they've abandoned you. Basically, in your head, you start making things up. So those are some of the layers. Maybe you work on those layers, and when you finish with that layers, and then you realize actually there's more. Things that keep showing up. So then you have to keep working on it. And some, like Dr. Bickett, you were saying, it's not like it's something that happened in the past. It could be something that happened in your adulthood as well. So, and those layers will still be there if you don't deal with them. When I was looking for a home, and basically everything was taken forever. And Carol Ann said I need to go back to my childhood and see if there is any ancestral attachment or whatever is going on that is causing all this. So I had to go back and communicate with my inner child, and basically everything was too much because I'm not used to having to live the way that I'm living. I'm used to my family making sure that I have a comfortable home, or the taking things. Basically, I'm used to other problems, but a home for me, it was always there, secure. I've always had a secure home. Like my granddaddy had a house, my daddy had a house, my mom had a house, like my step parents. I've always had a secure home. I've never ever struggled with the house. So it was something like a blockage that I had to accept that problems in my life are going to be different with my child, my inner child. I had to address all that. So I started doing meditation, conflict meditation in your inner child. And I had to start doing the meditation addressing my inner child. And I had to start doing the meditation addressing it. The pain back from my childhood must be a pain that I've gone through that I didn't realize the layer that was there, but I didn't realize it was there. So the layers, to answer your question, Dr. Bickett, they're always going to be there. We just have to acknowledge and then live with them. But sometimes it might bring an awkward situation. It might take you to a place where you feel awkward, where you feel angry to open up to your inner child. And it's part of the process. You do the you are a grieving coach, and Claudia, you are a healer, so you know that when you go to that place, it's very uncomfortable and it's awkward. Sometimes it can bring anger. Sometimes it can bring awkward questions, and but when you self-discover yourself, it's worth it.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know if you guys have any comment and.
Yeah.
This self-discovery and when you actually discover things about your inner child and the healing stuff.
Well, in regards to me, it comes out very strong in my romantic relationship, just like this is how it works in my life, very strong and dominant because it's just like, yeah. Romantic relationships can be very intense and personal and very close as well. And this is as well the part where we expect on some level, yes, to that the partner as well meets your needs to some extent and level. And if this doesn't happen, so I'm noticing as well, instead of being going into sabotaging mood or saying something stupid or nasty or embarrassing in this moment, just really to step back and actually tune into that little girl I once were, because actually that little girl is still a part of me as well, and it's actually as well the girl I once were, and she's talking to me all the time through emotions and feelings. And if I don't listen to her, especially as well when I feel a bit triggered with something or someone, and if I don't listen to it, then she can play havoc in my life as well, and like, cause self-sabotaging behavior and, like really drama and so on. So it's very important as well, just like to really to be like fine-tuned and to listen and to hear what's going on rather than going into into the words you want to say and then you regret them afterwards and so on. It's just like, yeah, this is how I do it as well. It's just like practicing slowly when I get triggered, just to go within and to check that out first. Yeah.
There, hi, Dr. Pickett, you there?
Okay, so yeah, to answer your question, Numsan, definitely. I think
Mm.
I'm yet to know anybody, unless the person has done a really extensive healing. And like Numsa says, it's come in multiple layer as well. And sometimes you say, oh, you done this, like me being a grief transformation coach, now I've been helping people with grief for 18, 22 years maybe, and being a grief transformation coach for 8, 9 years here solely. It's one of those that even with me and even with my clients, they're like, oh, we just discover something here and discover something there. And so there is almost always something that come in multiple layer, and it might be sometimes it's more in a relationship, sometimes it's in the success, it's almost all field of our life that. And sometimes it's not. One important thing that people don't realize is they tend to think it is their experience always. It is not always the case. Sometimes it's something that simply you witness or somebody experience that you perceive as something as a child, whether, and everything's perception, but it's somebody. It could be your grandparents experience, it could be your parents experience. I have one client who come in with a very resistant weight problem, and she's heavy. She has done everything under the sun. She's done diet, she's done exercise, she's done personal development after personal development. She has done also surgery, and her weight would improve. In the surgery at the beginning, the gastric have some kind of surgery. And at the beginning, the weight improved, but even with the surgery, after going through the surgery and all, after a few years, it came back to the point where it was close to the weight that she was, and since now it start affecting her health in a different way. It started to affect her health in her joints as well as all these things. It's also secondarily affect her relationship in her mind. It's also secondarily affect her relationship. She doesn't have close friends. She does not has a relationship that she wants. All these things, and we work together. She came to me because she didn't think about inner child. She came to me because she's grieving because her health is failing and her life is failing. And at work, she seems to be keep hitting this glass ceiling. She improved, but then she seems to just only to certain position and not go beyond that. And now, at the same time, though, if you just look at her very superficially, this person is a very successful professional as well. But deep inside, there is this all this that's going on with her. What we look at, we work together to address her current grief initially, and very soon we discover that when she was 16, 17, or something, she saw somebody, she saw a person, a beautiful lady, that she remembered that she used to be slim as a kid, but she was walking down the road and she saw a beautiful lady walking down the road. And at the time, having these people on the roadside, gentlemen on the roadside, yelling and teasing and what have you. And then so she was traumatized. She said, "Oh my God!" She saw these women. She saw this woman being yelled at and all these things being marked. And this woman take it being traumatized, and she cried and she ran. And my poor young client at the time who saw all these things and said, "Oh my God." So that's what happened as a young person. She perceived, excuse me, oh wow, that's what happened. Okay, well, and she went home. She was a little scared, went home, went to mom, and mom addressed it the way that we are all taught to address when a child come to us, say, "Oh, I saw this," and mom said, "Oh, you know what? It's okay. Don't worry. It's not gonna happen to you. Don't worry." Oh, and mom noticed she's still upset. "Don't worry. Here's some ice cream. Here's some happy. Your parents ever do this? You're upset. Here's some sweet. Here's some ice cream. Here's some this." So she's trained immediately on the spot to do that. And this is something, one of the many myth of grief, misunderstanding of grief. Instead of addressing, you're replacing with something. So her little young child says, first, it's dangerous and it's scary to be slim and trim, because once you grow up, people will holler at you. So let me not be slim and trim here. And then she start gaining weight as a self protection. Yeah. And then the second part is, oh, if anything happen, what do? We go to ice cream and we go to chips. The two combined together just becomes so self-destructive, as well as with her. Then she's like, well, if she's because she's happy, she's feel uncomfortable with people secondarily. And that's the part that she recognized as an adult. She feel uncomfortable with people, and then so she's not very close to people. She feel uncomfortable with herself, so she's not in a good relationship. But it's all based on one incident. Somebody has something happened to someone else's on the street. She doesn't know this lady, doesn't know her name, nothing like that. And so it could be in disguised in so many forms. Your questions originally, yeah.
I actually agree with you, the topic that you talk about figures and also you talk about grandparents. For me, I say I was raised by my grandparents.
I'm not sure if it's just my system. Claudia sounds very clear to me, but you have a lot of static and interference that it's make it really hard for me to understand.
Oh, me. Okay. Have you guys, are you all muted? Okay. Okay, how does it sound now? It sounds better. It stopped. I think Claudia pressed something muted and then it stopped. Yeah, so yeah, I was saying, for me, I was raised by my grandparents, though we lived with my parents, with my dad. I was raised by my grandparents because my dad worked, my mom worked as well. So I wouldn't say they raised me. They all did full-time jobs. So what Claudia is saying was when I was dealing with when I was dealing with the healing and stuff, I had to realize that I don't just have my parents as my parents. That inner child was making me realize that my grandparents, they're also my parents. And although that I've meant to call them my grandparents, so those were the things that I had to accept it inside when I was doing the process of healing, and the triggers that were triggers relationship that there was so much love in the family. And when you have so much love and your adulthood and you start becoming an adult, you start dating men, it does affect you because that man is going to come with his own personality as an individual. That is not going to be your grandmother, is not going to be your father, is not going to be your mother. And then you're going to start expecting them to behave in the same way that your parents behaved. And it's not going to work. So for me, it wasn't working. So I had to go through that process of acceptance, accepting that we are all individual, we are all different. So I had to go through healing, and it wasn't easy going through healing. And also I had to go through some of through forgiveness and forgiving myself for having questions within myself that why did my parents divorce, why did they stay together. But as I got older, I started realizing that my destiny would have been different. My mom would have spoiled me. My dad together would as well would have spoiled me because I'm very close to my family. Even my sister, she started getting affected, saying that she used to see how I used to spend time with my grandmother and my dad and my mom. But it's because I'm curious and I'm nosy. I like to know things. So I'll get closer to them because I like to ask questions. But she didn't realize that was the reason. She didn't realize I had to explain to her that my dad would not have loved his children different, and my grandmother, because my father, when he speaks about his children, he basically, we came first in his life. And even when they divorced with my mom, he was like, I'm not having somebody else raising my kids. Even my mom was like, I'm not taking my kids to my family, back to my family. I'm going to school. You are going to raise your own children. So you can't just come and make me pregnant and think that I'm going to pay for childcare. And then she was like, they're staying with you. I'm going back to school. So those were the things that I had to deal with them as an adult. I had to go back and dealing with all that, going through the process. And I was like, self-discovering myself. There were things that I was doing that I didn't like. I don't like wearing trousers, but I started wearing trousers when I moved into the UK because it's so cold. I started wearing trousers and stuff, and I was like, I don't really like wearing trousers. Why am I wearing this? And there are some things that I was doing as an adult, and those things I didn't like them doing. I didn't like to do them, but I was doing it trying to fit in with the club of my friends, trying to mingle, trying to say, oh yes, I love this, but I didn't like it. So those are the things that I had to, it was, the process wasn't easy. So everyone who is watching, I'm going to tell you as a Christian, I went through to 4 therapists, psychologists, and none of them got through to me. I was looking for to discover my life. None of them got through to me. And I fasted for 40 days. 40 days praying and basically forgiving everything, forgiving myself for the things that I held in my heart that I should have let go, and forgiving the people that have hurt me from when I was a child and to the adult. And those things were not big things, but the process was painful because I had to go through it, and also I had to take my time. I knew I wasn't rushing anything, but I had to take my time. So sometimes you had good days. I had good days. Sometimes I had bad days where I didn't want to do it, but I had to do it. And it took me 40 days. And the last day of my 40 day, it was when I was confronted by the energy that I was letting it go, because by holding everything, holding anger, holding all this and pretending to be something that I'm not. There was energy that was coming in the door, when the door of me saying to that energy, it's time to let it go now. I had this voice saying, no, you can't. No. And my fight began. And I did get my breakthrough, and I'm free from all that inner child. I had to rediscover myself, but the process is not easy. Dr. Biggett and Claudia, I know that you are an energy healer and Dr. Biggett is a grieving coach. So the energy to actually break away from everything is not a magic pill. So if anyone is watching, if you really, really want to, and like I said before, the layers are different. There's different layers that you have to go through. I had to go through the layers of dealing with the older generation that basically were not fair to me, that were basically, what did I call them? If I remember, I'll put the words in the comment. So I had to deal with those, like old generation, like you have your parents and then you have this older generation that comes in, and then they expect you to be something to them and they treat you bad. So I had to deal with those layers. I had to deal with my parents' layers. I had to deal with the mistakes that I've made, which I was ashamed of, and I had to deal with the guilty, which I shouldn't have felt guilty, and I had to deal with the anger, which I shouldn't have felt anger. I had to deal with all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, I recollected with my inner child, and I was so happy. And even today, I'm just happy. Even in my relationship, I'm basically not complaining. Claudia, you know, you work with the energy, and Dr. Biggett, you know, with the grieving. I know that I'm doing me in a relationship. Whatever my spouse does, it's none of his business. I do me. And then when I do me, the energy that I do me, it will bring him or help him basically rediscover who he is. I do not interfere with or try to change him. I change me. That's what I'm doing. I just change me. And then the rest is just happens natural. Over to you, Dr. Biggett and Claudia, whoever wants to continue. It's like, what if someone is watching right now and they are like controlling everything, how would they connect with their inner child so they can be free and basically focus on healing themselves? So how can we go about it?
I would like just to add something to what you just said at the beginning of your suggestion as well just now, that we have to find everything within us, you know. So no, it was Dr. Birgit. I think it was you and your client. She was successful in everything. Yeah, I think it was you. Speaking about your client, how successful she was, but still, you know, we can have all the wealth outside, you know, the great life and the great job, the money, the cars, everything. But if we don't address the trauma and the pain inside, we will actually as well always find a coping mechanism to deal with the pain and the trauma inside of us. So this is as well again why it's important to look within so that you can enjoy everything you've got outside in your life. Something as well I am applying as well in my life. My partner has 2 lovely kids, and each time they come and visit, I go and play with them, I go and play with them, so I get to go into this childlike, I'm not saying childish, I'm meaning childlike energy and mentality, and I really enjoyed. I didn't have this before because I don't have kids. So it is just like a new experience for me. And I really enjoy it, just to play with them outside, and to play games, to have ice cream. And even then, sometimes as well, I imagine me, my younger version, is as well with us in the game and in the circle, doing as well the playing with us. And yeah, it just brings me very much joy. And I suppose as well, healing along the way. Dr. Birgit?
Definitely, bless you, Numsa. So definitely, it's something that a lot of times we see the it's applied in so many different way of our life, and like you said, Numsa, it could be. But back to your questions, though, Numsa, it's how do people do that? There is a lot of different way people connect with themselves and with their inner child, and if it is fasting for 40 days. And deep praying for 40 days work best for you. That is wonderful. For me personally, I would never do that. It just wouldn't. I never go on a diet. I don't. I believe everything can happen easily and with fun instead of that. Just to me personally, that sounds like a lot of personally to me sounds a little bit like a torture. So why would I want to fast for 40 days? I love my food. I want to be able to do what I want, where I want, and I if you work with me closely, I'm kind of like go, get things done. Get things done in the most effective, efficient way. Now, it does not mean we're rusting. There's a huge difference between quick and efficient and rushing. I no rushing. Everything happen in a calm, effective, ultra efficient manner. So there's a lot of different way. But if fasting is what your way to go, then that is wonderful. And some people would. But it's one thing interesting that you said, Numsa, that you've been to 4 different therapies or something, and a lot of time therapy is to make us become aware and understand, and sometimes it does not shows us what it was. Prior to me doing grief work as well as life transformations, I was the same thing. I was on been through many therapies, and for some reason still didn't get to where it goes. Nothing against therapists. Please don't take me wrong. It's a therapy is wonderful. There are places for counseling. There are places for therapy. But the majority of my clients, the majority of them are either in therapy or been through therapy. So if you are doing that, and sometimes also been through many personal development coaching, if you're still stuck, then keep looking, keep asking for help somewhere else. Perhaps it's something that just that one little component, but it is something that it's been through all these things, and it's everybody different. You could do it the way. Sometimes through therapy you could discover things, sometimes through like what Numsa did, and you might also choose a simpler system where it is fun, and with me it's you do it for 12 weeks, and sometimes it's even as short as 6 weeks actually. And then you will discover, and all you need to do is there is no fasting required and no diet or anything. There is actually practically no restrictions, and we simply have you we just simply meet and have you do some reading and some writing, and you'll discover all this in a matter of 6 to 8 weeks, and in that time frame also heal what you need to heal. And so there are multiple different way to approach like we call this an intuitive healer, and then there are place for that. Sometimes you you go and have an intuitive healer. But I think there are multiple different ways. It's not and everybody different. And the other part is sometimes it's certain part of your life something work, and then you move forward, and then something else is that you might need. I have had intuitive healer in the past, and it was very helpful. I have had hypnosis and things like that, and then this is, so everybody is different. And if you are interested in learning more on what I do I actually have an event. I might have mentioned it before. I have an event Thursday next week, removing your hidden grief, and it's an introductory event for 1 hour, and it is free. It's on it will be available. It's online, so you can access it from anywhere that you want. This will be next week. I think you're muted, Nimsa.
Thank you, Dr. Pickett and Claudia. Yes. Yes, I just want to clarify, for me, fasting, if anyone is watching, is because I'm a Christian, and also always doing things my way. Claudia, are you muted?
Yes.
Yeah, I was doing things my way, so it didn't work. My way didn't get me to where I needed to go, so I needed God to be part of the process of my deliverance. So that's why I made a decision. But the process of a healing, you have to decide it on your own, based on your beliefs and based on what you believe to be true about your life. For me, basically, I was doing things the way I was doing things, but I wasn't getting what I needed to get. Deep down inside of me, I had something telling me that I needed to do something, so that's what I did it. That's why I fasted for 40 days. And that 40 days for me, it was fun because I was rediscovering the things. I was letting things go. There were tears in the process. You know, when you are being faced with the truth, because I was living in the truth with my parents. But when I left as an adult, you start forging personalities, you start creating fake images, and you start living in a lie. When I'm saying living in a lie, it means neglecting your inner child and pretending basically to be something that you're not, trying to fit in. I had so much junk that I needed to basically to get rid of in order for me to connect with my inner child. And that process worked for me. And like Dr. Biget is saying, is sometimes you have to go through. And also the reason why it didn't work with the psychologist is because I wasn't ready. You have to be ready to let it go. I wasn't ready. In my subconscious mind, there was fear. So I had to deal with that fear. Dealing with that fear, I had to ask God to actually help me to basically undo everything, every foundation tree in my family that does not please God, that is not there to build me. So I had to undo all those things, the ancestral things. I had to undo them. But there are so many different ways that you can heal yourself. It has to be your choice, like Dr. Biget was saying. It has to be a decision based on your values, based on your beliefs. My beliefs and my values are, I cannot do things without God. I have to, whatever I do, I have to ask God to hold my hands. So that's what I did. Even with my business, whatever I do as a Christian, so everything that I do, I have to have a moment where I have to be in the present moment and be specific with God, with what I want in my life, how I want Him to help me with the healing, the breakthrough, in order for me to have the breakthrough that I want. And it all comes with you within, and being honest of who you are. You cannot do what Claudia believes. You cannot do what Dr. Biget believes. You cannot do what I believe. You have to be honest within yourself and do you. based on your values and based on your beliefs, and bring that inner child to connect with that inner child. Some experiences might be very, very uncomfortable, but it's okay because it is the process that is the self-discovery that you will experience after. And there's so many things that you can do in order for you to meditation, those who meditate, prayer, those who pray, and the universe, asking the universe to help you, asking God. But you have to be specific. If your life is messed up, just say, God, my life is messed up. Don't say, okay, be ashamed of saying things out loud in order for you to break away from whatever is holding you connecting with your inner child. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I just wrote down as well what could help as well to do it. For example, at home, one way is I wrote down as well, like journaling. I just had the insight, just like journal as well, because it can bring down as well on paper all this challenging and the confusing experiences, and as well the emotional turmoil we have been going through. And journaling as well can help one recognize the pattern we have right now in our adult life so that we can change them, but we have to be aware of them first. And the thing is as well, when we do the journaling, we go back into the child version of us and do the journaling as well from that perspective, actually, as well. How did she feel? How did she see the world, and so on? But then as well, and then another way is as well, just go out and find your therapist or healer, coach, whatever it is you feel attracted to, because in the end as well, a therapist or someone who can help you here can create safe space for you so that you can open up and feel secure as well, and can show you as well some helpful strategies in regards to how to heal your inner child as well. And a therapist actually as well is not going to make it all sound nice. They're going to show you as well how actually your behavior right now and the pattern is affecting your life and your relationships and your overall well-being. So this is, you can always choose, how you would like to go ahead from here on.
Bigot. Hi, Dr. Bigot, are you there?
I forgot to mute. So yes, absolutely. So, but yeah, I would say, as we're coming toward the end of this, I would say just there is a child in all of us. Just like when I was a veterinarian, I say to my client, there is a kitten or a puppy in all of us, and you want to embrace that. Sometimes the adult has the logical mind and say, "You got to be this, you got to be that, and you got to be that." Just allow yourself to be you, and embrace that inner child, and whether it is for healing and for celebration as well. Just allow in the both and at the same time. If your result is not where you want to be, then typically there is a part of that child that might say, I can be allowed more, or can be recognized more, or can be healed more. And sometimes it's as simple as celebration. Sometimes it is a matter of needing healing even more. And feel welcome to connect with us if you recognize that, well, there's perhaps a part of us that a part of you that can benefit from being free. At the end of the day, healing is for freeing. So you'll be able to be free and create and the result that you want.
Any words of encouragement, Claudia?
Something else as well I would like to mention, when we heal ourselves, it means as well that we heal as well the collective consciousness and as well other generations as well of our ancestral line. Sometimes as well, or I suppose as well, most of the times I think as well, the ancestors they did not know how to care for their wounded self. And this is why many of us actually here as well to close the circle, cycle of that, to close the cycle and to do the healing. And then we benefit as well so many other beings as well on this planet.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Claudia. Dr. Bickett, was that your words of encouragement? If I'm checking. Okay, so for me, basically, I would just say, don't be afraid or don't be ashamed or don't feel guilty about the process, because the process is for you to basically connect with your inner child, and the process is for you to heal yourself and let go of trauma. And we got trauma in so many ways. We grieve in so many ways. Grieving is not just about losing somebody, or it might be things that we think that are important, but to us in our subconscious mind, we are not aware that our subconscious mind are telling us that these small things that you went through, they are important for you to heal. So just don't be ashamed, don't feel guilty, and just go through the process. It's fun, it's painful, but once you do it, you completely, you'll be different. How you look at your life, you'll be different. You will never ever compare your life with anyone ever. You would never ever look at somebody and wish to be them. You will look at them and celebrate everything they do, and for you to have your own blessings. So it's worth going through the process. And if you are looking to go through the process, we have Dr. Biggett, we have Claudia, and there are other coaches that are not here as well. So you can connect with Dr. Biggett. She loves journaling. She has also a journaling book that you can use for a year. It's actually worth it. It's money worth, because normally when I buy a journal, I just have to spend like money maybe after 2 months or 3 months. So she has one that you can get on Amazon. It lasts for a year. It will last you for a year. You can journal every morning and communicate with your inner child. And Claudia as well, just connect with her and find out how she can help you as well. And if you are looking for love, you can connect with me and Ngozi Talk Shows. Find your own voice and lead from within. That's what we do here at Ngozi Talk Shows. And we are here Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. And YouTube subscribers, family, please subscribe to our channel and live with grace, and God bless you.